I'm going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, text number 4, with Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. It's a verse and purport that I've read and spoken on quite a few times because it really speaks to me. Srila Prabhupada wants to speak to the world through his Bhagavatam purports, and this one really gets to me because it addresses the need of human society. There are many spiritual teachings which may be somewhat abstruse, but Srila Prabhupada in this purport is applying the Bhagavatam principles to the world we live in today. And of course, Srila Prabhupada didn't write this exactly in the world we're living today. He wrote this in the early 1960s in Vrindavan, which was something like a remote village in those days. And India was just at the beginning of its industrialization process. Very, very different India to the India of today. But still, Srila Prabhupada could see the trend, the tendency to go in the wrong direction for the actual benefit of human society. He analyzed the situation and he gave the solution. And in so many of his teachings, he's done this. But here you'll find in this purport, he's doing it with a particular emphasis on economic activities, the basic necessities of human beings, very practical, very down to earth, very Krishna conscious, in a nutshell, a blueprint for the benefit of all of human society. I'll read the verse. Kamang vavarsha parjanya sarva kama dughamahi sisichu sma vrajangava payasodhavsvatir muda. During the reign of Maharaja Yudhishthira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. So here we have discussion of the pious king, Yudhishthira, the earth producing the necessities of man with the cooperation of the clouds showering the water coming from the demigods, and the cow. The Srila Prabhupada's purport. The basic principle of economic development is centered on land and cows. Absolutely common sense, which is explained, as Srila Prabhupada goes on, the necessities of human society are food grains, fruits, milk, minerals, clothing, wood, etc. And all of these are produced by Mother Nature. Srila Prabhupada continues, one requires all these items to fulfill the material needs of the body. Certainly one does not require flesh and fish or iron tools and machinery. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, all over the world, there were regulated rainfalls. Rainfalls are not in the control of the human being. The heavenly king, Indradev, is the controller of rains, and he is the servant of the Lord. When the Lord is obeyed by the king and the people under the king's administration, there are regulated rains from the horizon, and these rains are the causes of all varieties of production on the land. Not only do regulated rains help ample production of grains and fruits, but when they combine With astronomical influences, there is ample production of valuable stones and pearls. Grains and vegetables can sumptuously feed a man and animals, and a fatty cow delivers enough milk to supply a man sumptuously with vigor and vitality. If there is enough milk, enough grain, enough fruit, enough cotton, enough silk, and enough jewels, then why do people need economic development in the shape of tools and machines? Can tools and machines supply vigor and vitality to men and animals? Can machinery produce grain, fruit, and milk, or jewels and silk? Are jewels and silk, along with varieties of foodstuffs prepared with ghee, grain, milk, and fruits, not sufficient for man's pure, luxurious, and healthy life? Then what is the need of an artificial, luxurious life of cinemas, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels? Has this civilization produced anything more than the doggish mentality of quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men into hellish factories and the war fields at the whims of a particular man? It is said here that the cows used to moisten the pasturing land with milk because their milk bags were fatty and the animals were joyful. Do they not require, therefore, proper protection for a joyful life by being fed with a sufficient quantity of grass in the field? Why should men kill cows for their selfish purposes? Why should man not be satisfied with grains, fruits, and milk, which combined together can produce hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes? Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? Maharaja Parikshit, grandson of Maharaja Yudhishthira, while touring his vast kingdom, saw a black man attempting to kill a cow. The king at once arrested the butcher and chastised him severely. Should not a king or executive head protect the lives of the poor animals who are unable to defend themselves? Is this humanity? Are not the animals of a country citizens also? Then why are they allowed to be butchered in organized slaughterhouses? Are these the signs of equality, fraternity, and nonviolence? Therefore, in contrast with the modern, advanced, civilized form of government, an autocracy like Maharaja Yudhishthira's is by far superior to a so-called democracy in which animals are killed and a man less than an animal is allowed to cast votes for another less than animal man. We are all creatures of material nature. In the Bhagavad-gita, it is said that the Lord himself is the seed-giving father, and material nature is the mother of all living beings in all shapes. Thus, Mother Material Nature has enough foodstuff both for animals and for men by the grace of the Father Almighty Sri Krishna. The human being is the elder brother of all other living beings. He is endowed with intelligence more powerful than that of the animals for realizing the course of nature and the indications of the Almighty Father. Human civilization should depend on the production of material nature without artificially attempting economic development to turn the world into a chaos of artificial greed and love of power only for the purpose of artificial luxuries and sense gratification. This is but the life of dogs and hogs. Srila Prabhupada's crystal clear vision, even though he hadn't been in the big world, he hadn't been to America at that time, but his vision was completely clear. What is wrong with the world and how to put it right. In his last days with us on this planet, he increasingly emphasized the need for Krishna-conscious farms to show an example of how human civilization should function. But it wasn't something that he had just dreamed up. He was talking about this even before he had gone to the West, even before he had seen the modern, developed world. His point here is that economic development, or the very sustenance of human life, depends on food production. No food, no human life. No plan for producing food, and civilization is doomed. Nowadays, there are many people in the world who are quite aware of the bad effects of factory farming. Increasingly, people are becoming aware of the bad effects of the whole industrialization project. From the very beginning, Srila Prabhupada was an advocate of this local economic model, where people at the local level, by working on the land, produce their own basic needs. By living, producing locally, all the needs can be taken care of. Food is the basic necessity, that's the emphasis here. There are also health considerations, housing considerations, transportation, clothing, education. Health means your health gets much better anyway if you live in a natural situation. And there is natural medicines. We may not have such complex and very expensive machines for doing MRI scans, for instance. But then there may not be such a need for so many things. And there is also the principle of not trying to make the body super fit in all respects to accept some level of poor health without trying everything for so many machines and so many chemical medicines. Housing, traditionally, that was a local endeavor. Whatever the local materials are there, whether it's stone or clay or wood or ice, whatever. Transportation, complex transportation systems are not required if you live locally. Clothing is again produced locally from cotton, wool, flax, hemp, silk, Srila Prabhupada mentions here. It's possible to have silk without the killing of the silkworms also. And education, that can be local, according to local needs. So Srila Prabhupada encouraged all of this. What people are talking about and what a lot of people are getting into now more and more. Eco-building from local materials, producing food without chemicals, pesticides, and the whole idea is not just to live in an environmentally friendly way, but to save time for the real purpose of human life, the real purpose of human civilization, which is self-realization. And Srila Prabhupada pointed out how the modern concept or the modern model of social development is bound to fail because its foundation is mistaken and it's already failing. It doesn't give happiness, it doesn't give health, it doesn't give self-realization. This society is already a failure. It's based on exploiting people, exploiting animals, exploiting natural resources up to the point where everyone becomes exhausted. The people become exhausted. The natural resources become exhausted. The animals have no say. They're just tortured from the point of their birth to their execution. This is the consumeristic society in which we live. It's not sustainable over time. It's an ongoing disaster. We take it as normal because we're born into it, but we're born into a disaster. This large-scale industrial agribusiness is disastrous for the environment, is disastrous for health. It's just one major factor in the overall disaster that is contemporary civilization. Food is an international business. Instead of just food is grown locally, it's become an international business with processed foods, which are terrible for health, wrapped in plastic, which is terrible for health, terrible for the environment. The agribusiness produces greenhouse gas emissions and pesticides and fertilizers, the artificial fertilizers. They decrease the quality of the soil. They decrease the quality of the food, the nourishment that we get from it. The producing the fertilizer and the pesticides creates so much poisonous, polluting chemicals, pollutes the air and the water. And then again, when you put it on the land, it pollutes the earth, it destroys wildlife, the whole ecological balance is thrown out. What to speak of the pesticides and fertilizers? Then there's the fuel-based mechanization of agriculture with tractors, combine harvesters, planes for spraying the fields, irrigation, which requires big factories to make all these machines. And then it's all based on fossil fuels, principally oil, with dwindling resources, getting more and more expensive, having to squeeze oil out of the earth by fracking and different means, and fighting wars over oil, and then in the meantime, taking water deep from the earth. The water tables are falling, and the whole ecological imbalance means that there's more and more frequently violent climate catastrophes, and the whole climatic situation is a catastrophe. There's so many things can be said. Genetically modified foods, homogeneous monocultures, which cover about 80% of global arable land, depletion of forests, destroying of local cultures. We're saying monoculture, we generally talk about the agricultural monoculture, where just one whole country can just be growing one crop, for instance. But it's also in terms of sociology, monoculture. It's the same culture wherever you go. Consumer culture. Local cultures are destroyed. And there's so many things. Industrial farming causes an imbalance in plant nutrition, which affects the food production. You have to put more and more chemicals in to get the food, and the food has less nutrition. So there's what's called hidden hunger, micronutrient deficiencies. According to the United Nations, there's 2 billion people, about more than 2 billion people, about 1 in 3 people worldwide, they say, are suffering from micronutrient deficiencies. That means they seem to be eating enough food, but they're not getting the proper nutrition from it. And therefore, so many diseases are caused because the food we eat doesn't nourish us. Apart from the greens in the field and the vegetables in the field not having sufficient nutrients, whatever nutrients are there are destroyed by processing the food, so that the food might be tasty, might be addictively tasty, but it's killing us. And these are not unknown facts. Well known, pretty much anyone who's a little bit in touch with what's going on in the world knows about all these things. Srila Prabhupada saw it well before others. From the transcendental perspective, the whole society is going in the wrong way. Srila Prabhupada, he was recommending, pushing Varnashram Dharma, which is a whole big topic, organizing society, but the basic principle is a God-centered, simple living, high-thinking society with the idea that man doesn't produce anything. What we need is given by God. We have to do a little work to collect that food, produce that food, but the mool, the basic producer, the giver of everything is God. The Vedic version, Om Purnam Adaha Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Evavashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. That is Vedic philosophy from the Upanishads, from Ishopanishad, where else does it come? Chandogya Upanishad. It's very deep philosophy, but in the context of what we're discussing, that God is complete. He can feed the whole world. He is feeding the whole world. We don't have to torture the earth. If we cooperate with God's plan, he will give us all the food by the agency of Mother Nature. The Supreme Father, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will give everything. But we shouldn't try to overproduce or torture the earth because, as the Ishopanishad continues, Ishavasyam idang sarvang yatkinchat jagatyang jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha magridha kasya svedhanam. Everything animate or inanimate within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Just take what is necessary. Don't overproduce. Don't make all kinds of useless things in the factories. Another very important teaching from Bhagavad-gita, Bhuktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suhridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mang shantim richati. How we can get peace. We have so many factory-produced items, but we don't have peace in human society. We should know that all our endeavors, Bhuktaram yagya tapasam, all human endeavors should be for satisfying him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not trying to exploit the earth, exploit human beings, exploit animals, so that we can get some so-called enjoyment. Everything should be for him. That's why in traditional societies, whether it's pre-Christian, pagan, or whatever, there are harvest festivals. Actually, the Christian harvest festivals, they were adopted from the pre-Christian, what they call pagan festivals. It means expressing our gratefulness to God for having given. Even before taking food, we should recognize this is given by God. We can't produce food in factories. So the Vedic natural economic system is do a little work, produce a little food, always keep in mind who this is coming from and what our life is meant for. Our life is meant for service to the Supreme Lord. We're living on the lap of Mother Nature. We should live in harmony with nature, with respect for the natural order, not trying to dominate or modify the natural order and with massive, horrible industrial enterprises. Work in harmony with what God has given. See Mother Nature as a divine creation. Those who live close to the land can see the hand of God, how there are natural rhythms and cycles, and one becomes aligned with them. You have to be. If you're going to farm the land, you have to be in tune with Mother Nature. And unless you farm, even those who farm using machines and all chemicals, still you have to be conscious of the natural rhythms and cycles of nature. But rather than torturing nature to try to force out more, there should be a respectable, symbiotic relationship with nature, with the environment, understanding this is divine, working with nature, within nature, not against it, and seeing that the benefit and the health of humans and animals and the soil and plants, it's all one symbiotic structure. Not just think of the needs of man and to hell with everything else. And then the animals, they also are to be looked after. Naturally, the cows, horses, goats, there are different animals which live with men, guided by men. There should be ethical and sustainable animal husbandry. Look towards simplicity rather than complexity. Look toward self-sufficiency rather than agribusiness. And live on the lap of nature, depending on the land, the cows especially, among all the animals, because the cows give the miracle food, milk, and that will also help to make the human strong in body, in mind, and in spirit. That will foster a pure mode of goodness kind of life and community. It's not just one farmer or one family and then another, no, we all live together. We all, just like we work in harmony with nature, we work in harmony with others. We're not all the time in conflict with others or don't care about others. This will bring into play the concept of duty. Where is that word nowadays? Duty. We have a duty, not just living for ourselves, but we have a duty to all other human beings, especially those we are in close contact with. And we have a duty to the animals, to the plants, to the environment, and of course, duty to God. Producing food, and then excess produced, give away in charity. If there's trade, then the traders, they have to give charity also. Entrepreneurship is also there, but it shouldn't be not for the sake of exploitation. Someone gets rich, all well and good, but they should always remember that he became rich by the grace of God. It's not just by my ability. And look to the welfare of society. If you get wealth, then use it for the best benefit of society. Don't just be a miser and keep it for yourself. So it's a very big topic. Srila Prabhupada doesn't directly touch on it in this purport, but Varnashram Dharma. It's a scientific, in other words, very practical system to promote community and social system that is centered around a divine purpose. We're not just here to eat and exploit and enjoy and compete, but see our life is meant for the divine, which ultimately means for Krishna. We should be concerned that the social system has social equity. That doesn't translate to absolute equality. There will be hierarchy, but that should be understood that by the arrangement of God, some people have more abilities in certain areas, some people are natural leaders. So without envy, without exploitation, there's hierarchy in society, but the idea of cooperation, mutual service, with everyone engaged in various levels in spiritual practice, with the idea of serving others and ultimately serving God, devotion to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We work, produce food, and then there are also all kinds of people. There are doctors and traders and artisans, teachers, all different kinds of people, and all living together without exploiting nature, living on the lap of nature, in harmony with nature, protecting the cows who produce that important food, milk by eating grass, which we can't do anything with, and offering everything to Krishna. So this is Srila Prabhupada's blueprint for a sane and happy and fulfilled society, and he gave the task of fulfilling that to his disciples, and all glories to the devotees who've taken up that mission, who are actually living on the land, protecting the cows, living simply, chanting Hare Krishna. Let the people of the world, at least let the members of the Krishna conscious movement at least take notice of this. This is fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's desires, fulfilling Krishna's desire. This is the future of the Krishna conscious movement. This is what it should be. More and more devotees live on the land and live simply, live cooperatively, and chant Hare Krishna together. I personally regularly visit and I'm involved with 3 such communities, one in Gujarat, Navanandagram, one in Madhya Pradesh, Bhaktigram, and one in Andhra Pradesh, Kurmagram. Then we also have Novi Gokul, a project that I'm involved with in Czech Republic, and we're very much looking forward to having such a project in America, United States of America. We want to have that. We're working on that to try and actualize it as soon as possible. In the 1970s, devotees bought many farms, but it's not so easy nowadays because there's so many rules, government rules, and so many formalities you have to go through. But we pray, by the mercy of Krishna, by the blessings of the Vaishnavas, we can take a major step toward fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's desire by developing a farm community in the United States along the lines which he gave. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasinubhyascha patitanam